Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bet the Edge. Thanks, everyone, watching on our NBC Sports YouTube channel. I'm Vaughn Dalzell, filling in for Jay Crouch today. And I have Drew riding with me for today's episode, a football-filled one, as we're going to handicap lines at Packers, Jags at Eagles, Colts at Vikings, and we're going to wrap up the show with our best bets. Drew likes a spread. I like a prop, but it is spooky season, Drew. Last week was all dogs in the NFL, as you know. So you have anything you want to hit on before we kick off our NFC matchup here?
No, this is going to be a fun week of football, though. Some really interesting handicaps. I'm excited to talk through these games today because we've got a bunch of moving parts with some injuries and some games that matter a ton. This is going to be a ton of fun. And it's been a while since we've gotten to talk hardcore NFL. So excited to hear some of your perspective.
Likewise, my friend. Yeah, it's going to be one of the toughest weeks. I think the public owned the sports for 2 weeks, and then the sports was got us all back last week. So it's a tough one here. But Lions laying one of those numbers is going to be hard to back. -3.5 at Green Bay, Drew. The total is sitting at a 48 even. So a lot of people here are probably going to want to take Jordan Love and the Packers, home dog, plus the 3.5. But the Lions, coming off that beat down the Titans, hard not to believe that offense will put up some points here. And what is a little rivalry brewing between these two lately.
Yeah, this one is a lot of fun to handicap. And the Jordan Love question of it all is really where we got to start. So hasn't been practicing this week. Obviously came out of the game last week, and Malik Willis came in and did very admirably. In fact, I did not have Malik Willis again performing to this level on my bingo card this season at the start. And now you just have to kind of accept it that whatever magic he's got, whatever synergy exists between Malik Willis and LaFleur is for real. I would kind of say, just as far as kind of putting on my my wizard hat or looking at my crystal ball here, is Jordan Love going to play or sit? I think he's going to call his own number. I think he's going to go here. He obviously missed time earlier this season with the MCL injury, and I know this is more of a pain tolerance thing. And much like last week, where people were kind of assuming that missing practice meant he was likely going to sit for Jaden Daniels, when you have elite quarterbacks and it's Sunday morning and they wake up and they hey, man, give me the shots, whatever I got to get through the pain here. As this isn't the type of injury I don't think that could get worse. And I think Jordan Love is ultimately going to go here. So just completely in a neutral vacuum, would you capture closing line value in that situation with +3.5? Absolutely. Yeah. In a situation where this is, Malik Willis instead of Jordan Love is +3.5 value on the Packers, I say absolutely. And this is kind of maybe a bit controversial because the Lions are clearly one of the top power rated teams in the NFL right now. I would have them third behind Baltimore and Buffalo, but there's not a huge margin there. The market now makes, what do you say?
Yeah, Detroit, they're just as good as it gets right now. They could do it so many different ways. Where do you have them in the market?
Absolutely. Market right now has them number one, number one offense. I agree. Number 7 defense. And this is kind of where it gets tricky. You look at their EPA per play, it looks great, but it's fueled by turnovers. It's fueled by putting their opponents in long down and distance third downs and then succeeding on those, the defense succeeding. That doesn't feel sustainable to me. I think ultimately this Detroit defense is a sell high right now, the way the market is rating them. And I think ultimately with Love out there and with all the weapons that the Packers have in the passing game and the way that Josh Jacobs is running the ball right now, the way that this offensive line is playing for the Packers and the fact that they are at home and they should have the ability to get that home crowd going to neutralize the strength of the Lions offensive line. This sets up as a pretty obvious play on the Packers for me. I did not expect when we started this week that this was going to be one of the heavier edges for me as far as sides go, but just kind of in summary here, I'm going to go ahead and say it's more like 30% or so that Jordan Love plays when the market is pricing it like 5 or 0. And I think ultimately Love or Willis on the field, this is still a situation where I think the Packers overall have enough weapons to really put some pressure on a Lions defense that I think is a touch overrated by market.
Oh, yeah, you're talking to the right guy about overrated defense here. I was on the Tennessee Titans first quarter, under 2.5 at Detroit last week. I'm like, come on. Why is Mason Rudolph converting 3rd and 11s, 3rd and 18s on this team, like going down and scoring on them? And I caught myself saying, I'm done hearing the Lions are a Super Bowl team because their defense cannot get it done. And that's an overreaction. I'm not going to act like the Detroit Lions are a terrible defense by any means. They still shut them down the entire rest of the game there, inside the last 3 quarters. But I think that when you look at this, the Lions have to prepare for both quarterbacks, Drew.
True.
With Jordan Love and Malik Willis, they've done well with both guys under center. Like you said, Malik Willis exceeded expectations. So the fact that you have to prepare for both of those, you don't know who you're getting, and Jordan Love saying it's realistic that I could play is a great sign. This line should probably be more like Lions -1, 1.5. You'd probably say. I would say.
Yes.
So the fact that we're getting this right now, I think it's worth jumping on.
Yes.
They have enough options. But.
Yeah. Let me ask you a follow-up question here. So, the NFC North is good.
Very good.
There's not that much margin between these teams like the Lions and the Packers and the Vikings, certainly. And I know like maybe I'll be proven wrong and the Lions are just a truck and they're peaking into their final form and they're just going to, run amok through the middle of the season. That's entirely possible. This offense is amazing. Like I'm not really trying to trying to throw dirt on them at all. But that said, when there's a narrow margin between these teams in division and there's so much familiarity between these opponents and you're getting 3.5 points with the home team, like this is almost too good to be true. And I may end up eating these words and I'm not going to fade the Lions a bunch this season, but I think this is a pretty opportune time. And I guess the question would be if there's enough upside in the Packers in this spot, is it better? What do you think about taking the money line versus something a little more exotic, like, I don't know, Packers to win the NFC North?
I mean, I don't hate that play necessarily. I don't know if I want to tie up my money for that long in this division that's been so tight so far.
Sure.
Because injuries can't happen. I mean, we've already seen how many are happening across the league. I would say the one thing that makes the Lions much more dynamic, and I don't want to say it's just the coaching, but it's the schemes and the creativity of the coaching on the offense for the Lions. Like you have Jared Goff catching touchdowns one week and David Montgomery throwing touchdowns the next week. Like not many teams can accomplish these type of things. So that's why I do kind of lean the Lions just in the division overall, because they're going to be able to do different things, even throwing to offensive linemen too. Can't forget about that. These type of things are going to win them games, I think, down the line because they're so creative. So I like the Lions in the division, but I think it's going to be a neck and neck division all the way. I did want to ask you before we go to the next game because David Montgomery, it's a guy that I think we should speak on. He has been a touchdown machine. I want to ride this until the wheels fall off all season, but he scored he scored a touchdown in 6 out of 7 games this year. And last year he had 4 total, including a hat trick at Lambeau. They're back at Lambeau. Do you like David Montgomery or any other players in this matchup?
I mean, he's running phenomenally well this year so far. I have seen him get dinged a couple of times, which is worth keeping an eye on because they obviously have a 2-headed monster with Montgomery and Gibbs. And there's going to be a point in time where they're like, okay, let's kind of make sure we balance the load here so that when we get to the postseason, we still have this 2-headed monster. But the Packers defense, I think, is also a hair overrated. These are 2 defenses that, in my opinion, are just living and dying by creating turnovers. And that is tough to sustain. Both of them, just in a neutral setting, rate pretty similarly in terms of defending the run and pass. Actually, they're pretty close to right on top of each other, frankly. But when you take away turnovers, they both regress sort of towards the middle of the pack overall for teams. And so, Montgomery having some success in this game is going to be correlated to game state, I think. And if you, if the Lions get out to a lead here, does he get leaned into a little bit more as they try to play a little bit of keep away, keep their defense from being exposed on the road? I would say absolutely. So, I think this is kind of one of those games where Lions with the lead at halftime, like if you can bet into, say, live player props or something along those lines, then Montgomery probably sees a serious uptick in his usage in the second half. Whereas if the Packers get out to a lead here, and we saw this in the Thanksgiving game between these teams last year, it just turns the Lions on their head and puts them in a difficult spot script-wise, where all of a sudden they are just throw. And now Goff, when he was asked to do that on the road in Minnesota, did it. But I do think that it's a little bit different outdoors.
Yeah, I have to agree there. I think Detroit is one team that's not afraid to, stick to the run as much as they can. But when they get thrown into a pass-first situation right off the gate, it's not a friendly script to have a running back like Montgomery at -140 yards to score a touchdown. But like I said, the guy just does it every week, week in and week out, Drew. 6 out of 7 games he scored a touchdown. So that's something I've been looking at this week. But also for this weekend, I'm pretty excited. The world's fastest thoroughbreds come together this weekend in Del Mar to compete for a title of world champion at the Breeders' Cup. You can catch the action from Southern California on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. I know Eric Froton on our College Football Takeover said, I need to get tickets and find myself down there. He was talking about wearing a Halloween mask. Don't know if that's what you have planned, Drew, if you're going to make it down to Del Mar and if you're going to wear a Halloween mask.
I didn't know Eric was going. I'll hit him up. I'll be down there Saturday.
But the question is, are you going to wear a Halloween mask? And if you are, what are you going to wear?
No, I'm wearing my lucky hat, man. Are you kidding?
Lucky hat. That's the lucky hat, man. Well, that'll be a good time, man. I hope you enjoy it. Should be hopefully great weather, I'm assuming. It's not Connecticut weather, my friend. It's not Connecticut.
That's true. That's fair.
Enjoy it. Let's talk about my old stomping grounds, though, in Pennsylvania. The Philadelphia Eagles have a home game here. They're 7.5-point favorites against the Jacksonville Jaguars. A team that has really burned my bridges this year, my friend.
Yes.
Totals 45.5 here. Got to say, Drew, my only look at this game, and I hope you agree with it, the Philadelphia Eagles haven't scored a point in the first quarter all season.
Whoa.
And it's coming this Sunday at home against the Jaguars. Why would it not? You tell me.
Not stopping anyone from getting on board with, because like there's a standout unit and a standout matchup in this game, and it is the pass offense for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Jags defense. The Jags defense, amazingly, right now is 32nd in the NFL in DVOA. 32nd. They're worse than the Panthers in defense. They're worse than the Cowboys. Like this, they are performing horrifically poorly, and it is mostly against the pass right now, excluding turnover plays. They're allowing 0.3. Well, I can almost not believe this. 0.35 EPA per drop back, and now they are taking on an Eagles team that has a two-headed monster with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith healthy. This is going to be relatively light work for the Eagles to score points. And on the flip side, the Jags are dealing with a cluster injury at the wide receiver position. Christian Kirk, he's not going to be available for you the rest of the season. Gabe Davis has not been playing well on top of dealing with an injury. And Brian Thomas Jr., he may ultimately greenlight himself, but I am here. I'm somewhat skeptical of him being effective. And if you're the Jaguars and if you're kind of, Trevor Lawrence, and you're like, hey guys, don't quit on the season. Don't quit on the season. It is not a good sign when your front office says, let's go ahead and deal Cam Robinson. He's our left tackle. Let's go ahead and ship him. We'll get some draft picks for next year. Like, holy smokes, that is a bad sign to this team, to this locker room. And I realistically do not think there is much of a hope that the Eagles are going to be able to, or the Jags are going to be able to go score for score with an Eagles team that is going to put serious pressure on these guys. You've seen this now float out to 7.5. It is tough to make this number 7.5 for me, but it is also very, very difficult to see exactly how the Jaguars covered this number unless they were able to string together long drives and play keep away and just in general keep their defense off the field.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the running back situation too for them with ETN being banged up consistently. You got Tank Bigsby in there playing well, but you mentioned all the receivers. It may not be, the worst thing for those Jag receivers to be out because they have dropped so many passes this year. They have let Trevor Lawrence down a lot of times, even though he hasn't played up to the standards that we all think he can reach. But I do think that the Eagles probably get out to an early game here. Jags have to continue to have a script where they throw consistently. Trevor Lawrence's over props are probably strong here. I think if you get an Eagles first quarter, -2.5, it's a great bet. I know they haven't scored all season, like we said in the first quarter, but it is coming here. The Jags are relying about 5 points per game in the first quarter. But if that script is negative, Drew, I think one player that probably stands out for the Jaguars worth considering for betting or fantasy standards would probably be Evan Ingram, right? He's looked pretty good in his first 2 games back. I feel like he's a guy that could get involved here in this game script. That's who I'm targeting, maybe, from receptions, receiving yards line. But is there anybody that you're looking at in this game that could kind of break it open, whether it's just, their old regular Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley?
Saquon Barkley, I think this is not necessarily the matchup for him. He's a boomer bust player in general, and for what it's worth, the recipe for failure for the Jags defense is sort of sustained stinking as opposed to allowing like the blow up plays. So like it hasn't necessarily been sort of the right recipe for Barkley being able to do what he did against the Bengals last week is a good example. Like the Bengals haven't been sustained poor play. It's just been allowing some, explosive things that just put them on their heels. And so I think this to me seems like a Jalen Hurts passing type of approach. And just in general, I think if there's a standout player in the prop market, I think it's probably AJ Brown. His stats have lagged his performance, which has been like truly elite since he returned from injury. And I think that, against this particular secondary, which cannot necessarily cover him, he could have a breakout performance. I would expect to see a good amount of running early to kind of keep the Jags defense honest, and then just see them take some deep shots to Brown, see them lean into the Brown crossers, which is his bread and butter. And, if I had to guess stat line for him, I'll just throw it out there. He's 8 for 156 and 2 touchdowns on Sunday.
Ooh, I love that. I got a little trifecta of Hurts, Saquon, and Brown on 2 of my 3 fantasy teams. So I've been rolling with the Eagles heavy, which hasn't paid off until I was late. But I like to hear that the Eagles will have success. The only way I could look at this game was really with the Eagles, to be honest with you. But people, the haters, Drew, are going to say this is fake because our producer just dropped a note that as we're taping live right now, around 1:30 p.m. Eastern, it's a Thursday on Halloween. Happy Halloween, Drew. But not all to the listeners because that time has passed. We are correct. The Lions spread has just moved. Our producer lets us know it's down to 1.5, down from the 3, and we just said that not even 6 or 7 minutes ago. So at the 1.5 number, just to recap, you still think it's worth getting involved in with the Packers?
Well, yeah, no, I had seen the board light up like that. I was like, okay, well, something obviously happened. This wasn't just the market realizing that Jared Goff was going to be outdoors in wet weather with his little hands. This was specifically Jordan Love spotted at practice. So I think, what we were, kind of how we were laying it out, where he may be just calling his own number in this one because it's a pain tolerance thing, starting to feel a little bit likely.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that too. So make sure you shop around and try and get the best number. MGM still hanging a +3. While other plays are still on the move right now currently. So it'll be interesting to see what that market closes at here on Sunday. But certainly we are saying go Pack Go here on the podcast, and we are flying with the Bird Gang Green as well in the Eagles. But we'll see what happens with Sunday Night Football, Drew, because we're heading to the Great Northern this week. When Justin Jefferson, the Vikings, host the Colts, NBC and Peacock will lead you to kickoff with coverage starting at 7 p.m. Eastern.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Thank you, Jay. We are back. Sunday Night Football, NBC and Peacock game, Drew. Colts and Vikings. Vikings 5.5-point home favorite to the total of 46.5. A line that could be on the move a little bit. People love Joe Flacco this season, and the Colts have been one of the better against the spread teams all year. Anthony Richardson benched in this matchup. Do you like a side or total in this game?
Gone back and forth on what this means to the rest of the players in the locker room and whether this is a sign that, hey, this team is going for it. We're win now mode. We need max effort. This is our season on the line. Or if the Colts just in general aren't talented enough to make that matter. I will say this as I look at the Colts as a roster. Very, very, very good running back. Locked in for the future in Jonathan Taylor. His performance continues to improve week by week, and he is going to be a factor in this game. Very, very solid trio of wide receivers. Downs is having a breakout emergence this year. Pittman is very, very solid. And Alec Pierce delivers an over-the-top threat that really can kind of change the way teams defend you. The fact that they're going with Flacco, who is a higher floor quarterback, should overall, paired with with a good but often injured this season, at least offensive line, should present a situation where the Colts are able to score in this game pretty effectively. The flip side, though, is this Colts defense is a problem. To me, they are not realistically able to consistently stop the pass, and they are very, very average at defending the run. They're not especially good at creating turnovers. They're not especially good at creating pressure in kind of high leverage down and situational football. That to me spells trouble against a Minnesota team that not only has elite weapons at the wide receiver position, but now gets to reintegrate TJ Hawkinson into the mix and kind of avoided a catastrophic problem with their left tackle getting injured last week in Christian Darrisaw. So I think Cam Robinson marries pretty nicely with the rest of this pass protecting unit, and I think Sam Darnold can continue to succeed with this offense, considering that he now has another weapon to work with in the passing game. And the scripted portion of the offense for the Vikings has been elite. And I think they can put some scoreboard pressure early on this Colts team and really just set up the type of game state that is sort of score and answer, score and answer, score and answer. I do not see a ton of punting in this game. I do think that the Vikings were living with a little bit of high leverage, kind of blitz happy pressure generation and turnover luck earlier in this season, and it came against great teams, which was really tough to square, right? Like, people were like, how can you deny that the Vikings are a very good defense? Look who they're beating. They're beating good quarterbacks. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. But, I think the last couple of weeks you've seen that there are clearly ways to attack this team, particularly over the middle of the field, and particularly if you have multiple weapons in the passing game, that can kind of hurt you at different levels, which the Colts do. So I think there's an easy and obvious answer here, Vaughn, and it's the over 46.5. I think the side is about right. It maybe should be closer to 4.5. The delta between Richardson and Flacco is real. I have that in the ballpark of a point and change. But I still think the Vikings could ultimately cover this one if they are playing from ahead, because I think it's very realistic that the Vikings are scoring 30 points against the Colts.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the only way you could back the Colts here would probably be early in this game to hope they come out motivated with the quarterback.
Yeah, that's right.
They have a really good script. It's a first quarter plus 1.5 or whatever line you have there for them. But I think that Joe Flacco, the upgrade is there, as you said. I think it's worth a point or two. I think that with him, the dynamic of the offense, they can stretch the ball down the field more. They're more consistent when they're going to throw the ball. Those Josh Downs, Michael Pittman type of players are able to convert those third down conversions. With Richardson, they're not able to. So I think that one of the best bets in this game, because I do like that overlook, is Joe Flacco over 34.5 pass attempts. I think he has to throw the ball a ton in this game. I mean, he had 44 and 38 pass attempts in his last two games before they brought Richardson back into the fold. So I know Jonathan Taylor's healthy. He looks great right now. My fantasy team thanks you for that. But I think that they will have to rely on the pass a lot more in this game because the Vikings have so many threats. And Aaron Jones, can't forget to mention him, Drew. He just had over a 90% snap share in the previous game for the first time in his career. He's been a guy that's always had a dual backfield pretty much and had someone else there giving him a little bit of release on that carry work. Mm-hmm. He's not doing that anymore. He looks great for Minnesota. So he's a guy, too, I'm looking at in the touchdown market. Okay. Anything do you want to wrap a bow on this game? Anything else worth mentioning before we move on?
I like that all of those points. I think the one thing that I'm the most intrigued to get an answer for here is if the Vikings run defense is as good as they've been on paper. The Vikings they employ a run blitz that's been impossible for teams to solve, but they haven't gone up against the Jonathan Taylor yet, and they haven't gone up against a blocking scheme that's as innovative as what Shane Steichen is running. And I think that matchup will probably flip your who covers here, because that's going to really fuel red zone efficiency one way or the other for the Colts. which is how you cover a point spread like this on the road.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. This is going to be an entertaining game, and like I'm with you with the points. I think it's going to be an over. I wish in the Circa Millions contest we could take totals, man, because these spreads have been rough the past few weeks. But yeah, I would probably side with the dog here and hold my nose, but we'll take the over. So let's talk about our favorite bets of the week before we get out of here, Drew. I'm gonna kick it off with one NFL one for you. And it is juice because everyone's starting to play it now because everyone saw probably what I saw on Sunday. Jameis Winston to throw at least one interception. How many picks are the Ravens going to drop this season? But how many did they drop in the last game? I mean, there was points converted for the Browns
4?
that should not have been. Yes, it was at least 3.
The game clinching. The game clinching drop from Kyle Hamilton was amazing.
I mean, Winston is a lucky man. All right. So I don't think that converts to the next week here against the Chargers. And what's a super fishy line? I mean, Browns at -1, 1.5. After what we just saw, of course, everyone wants to run to the window and take the Browns. So Chargers 5th in turnover differential, 6 picks on the season. I think this is a game where Winston reverts back to his old ways, Drew. Throws an interception. Since 2021, he's thrown a pick in 5 out of 11 starts or 5 out of 11 games with 20-plus passing attempts. I think they fall behind here and start throwing, so he throws the interception. What say you about that, and what's your favorite play?
Well, I played the Chargers in large part because I am not believing that Jameis Winston is a team elevator, I guess. And yeah, the turnovers are definitely a realistic part of this handicap. I just in general, like I'm struggling right now to come up with what is a fair rating for this Chargers defense. They haven't played anyone, but they are playing very well.
Yeah,
So are they good, or is this entirely a reflection of their opponents? They were solid for a lot of that game against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, but then, they kind of gave it up when they needed to, stiffen the most. So, I think it is worth kind of pointing out, though, that the strength of the Chargers team right now has been their secondary. They've had really, really solid players step up across that unit. You look at the way that the team is rostered, and you think, oh, it's all pass rush, right? But no, the Chargers have been very, very impressive, particularly the unit led by Cam Hart, amazingly enough, who is not being talked about much as far as a rookie breakout here, but he's their CB1 right now, left cornerback, and he's amazing. So I think if you want to dial it in a little more, Cam Hart gets that pick. So
all right.
let's go Chargies. My best bet for the week, though, is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. This is another one where the market has moved in my favor, so apologies if you didn't get the best of the number here. I am currently looking at a Falcons -3. It is cheap. It's a cheap -3. I like that better than a very, very juicy -2.5 anyway, personally, because I think this number is it's hovering around the wrong key. This is not a 3-point game. There's not a 1.5 difference between the Falcons and the Cowboys, and the Falcons have meaningful home field advantage the way they're rostered. So I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been a shift across 3 for the Falcons here. I think this should be hovering more like around 6 on the low side of 6, but still, this is one where I could see it cross and close around 3.5 by the time we get to the weekend. Once it's fully digested that Micah Parsons is not going for the Cowboys, and just in general, this Cowboys team, there's a lot not to like, Vaughn.
Yeah.
I don't really know where to start here, but they're one-dimensional on offense, and it's even more problematic than being one-dimensional because they are like single point of failure. If CeeDee Lamb can't get open, if CeeDee Lamb is unable to create game-changing plays, they don't have a plan B. The running attack right now is absolutely useless. The offensive line is playing very poorly. Dak Prescott is being asked to dig this team out of holes week in, week out. Sometimes he has gotten lucky enough to close gaps, but he still can't cover spreads. This is turning into a lost season for a Cowboys team that thought they were knocking on the door of a Super Bowl appearance last year. And with the injuries sustained in the defense, I currently have this unit in the bottom third of the NFL. I think the Mike Zimmer experience has been wildly underwhelming so far this year. They don't look well coached. They don't look well coordinated. The linebacking core is very attackable and very susceptible. The tackling is horrible. They haven't been able to create the high leverage turnovers that they've needed to sustain what was a good defense last year. And they have very little pass rush going for them right now in the absence of Lawrence and Parsons, who are hugely important players. So this is a brutal matchup for this Cowboys unit on the road for the second straight week after getting the, effectively no contest in the second half against the Niners on Sunday Night Football. Now you draw a Falcons team that's healthy on the offense, that has elite weapons in Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Those three players are the most successful, hitting the Cowboys portion of the field where their defense is the least successful. So this is hand in glove success for the Falcons offense, the way I see it. And I'm not looking too much at the fact that the Falcons defense is a monumental question mark right now. They haven't really been tested, and they haven't really shown us that they're any good. But I still think that the fact that the homework assignment for the Falcons defense is pretty straightforward. Put a lid on CeeDee Lamb. If you can accomplish that, then the rest is downhill. So let's see if the Falcons can continue and carry forward what looks to be, to me at least, the likelihood that they're going to get a top 3 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, it's not 2021 anymore, Drew. It is the trio of Dak, Zeke, and CD will not work. As you said, very one-dimensional. The defense taking a step back, all the injuries. It's been a team that you want to bet on, in my opinion. And I like the Falcons. You didn't give a shout out to Ray McLeod, though. I mean, my guy he's been pretty good too for them. Yeah. He's filling in for Cordero Patterson, but Tyler Algier. I mean, they have so many different dynamic weapons in Atlanta this year that Kirk Cousins.
Daryl Hodge. He is game-winning play against the Bucs in overtime on Thursday Night Football. That swung their season.
Yeah. This team's really believe, and they bought into Kirk Cousins, and they tried the media specifically tried to make a little competitiveness and problem between him and Penix because they drafted a quarterback, and there's been no issues. This team has succeeded, so I like that look. They're at home too, so that is a good bet there. Reminder for everyone to go back to our past shows. Here, so you guys could hear Drew and Jay's NFL picks from earlier in the week, and also our college football plays from Eric Froton and Brad Thomas as well. Before we get out of here, Drew, I do have a lunch money parlay to share with you. You have to lock this in, okay? So
I got my book.
This is 147 to 1.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, that's a big number.
Yeah, 147 to 1. We're going Trevor Etienne, first touchdown in Florida, Georgia. He used to play for Florida. He now plays for Georgia, right? They're at Georgia. Jordan James, first touchdown, Oregon, Michigan, running back for Oregon. He's done this a few times this year, but he's awesome. And the last one is the best one. He's our favorite guy on the Bet the Edge College Football Takeover. Tyler Warren, tight end for Penn State, 24 catches in the past 2 weeks, and he's got 4 rushing attempts. This guy does it all, Drew. He was at plus 950 first touchdown. So that's 147 to 1. Some fun bets for your college football weekend as well. So we do it all here, Drew. And if you think we need more, you can just go to NBCSports.com. You can find more of everything we do. So we appreciate everyone for checking and listening. For Vaughn, Drew, producer Adam, best of luck this weekend, and we'll see you next time.